the labeling of 2024 university campus protests against the annihilation of Palestinians in Gaza as anti-Semitic is not a new phenomena. Anti-Semitism, real or imagined, serves Zionism by painting the Gentile world as hostile to Jews. It reinforces the idea that Jews can only be safe in an Israel-Palestine where only Jews live. The following is an excerpt from Uri Davis' book, published in 1987, detailing this phenomenon. There's nothing coincidental about the practical convergence of political Zionism and anti-Jewish racism, anti-Semitism. Political Zionism and secular anti-Jewish racism share a common view on the existential status of Jewish minority communities in non-Jewish Gentile societies. Both the political Zionist and the anti-Jewish racist believe that given the fundamental racial incompatibility of non-Jews with Jews, the Jew cannot by definition be, nor can he or she be expected to be, an equal citizen and a free individual in a non-Jewish society and polity. Given the moral and ideological convergence of political Zionism and anti-Jewish racism, the Zionist movement, as represented in the official institutions of the World Zionist Organization, has, at critical junctures, opted for collaboration rather than conflict with anti-Jewish racists, even when that racism has taken the form of pogrom and genocide. It may be useful in this context to illustrate contemporary Zionist thinking on the question of Zionist and anti-Jewish, racist interrelations by quoting one important Zionist publicist, Uri Harari. Writing on our responsibility towards the Jews in the Arab countries, Harari commented, "When we hear of riots, pogroms, or hanging of Jews, we seethe with anger, and justly so. We mobilize public opinion and we raise our warning. We try to do everything within our capacity to help the persecuted Jews. Then we ask ourselves, where were they all these years? Why did they not immigrate into the country, Israel, in time? Still later, and deep in our heart, there's also a tiny flicker of vicious joy. Serves them right. We warned them. We told them so. It is, of course, not customary for us to talk about it in public, but many of us felt a tiny bit of joy at another's calamity when we read reports in the papers about the swastika epidemic in Europe in 1960, or about the pro-Nazi Taquara movement in Argentina. And even today, we have very mixed feelings when we read of de Gaulle's anti-Semitic hints, or about the intensification of anti-Jewish feelings among black leaders in the United States. Despite all the anger and the shock and the insult, these phenomena fit into our worldview because Zionism said then, as it says today, that this is the state of affairs, and that such it must be so long as Jews live among Gentile nations. In our great enthusiasm for the achievement of Israeli independence and sovereignty, we sometimes forget the negative aspect of Zionism, its cruel worldview. Zionism assumes the eternal hatred of the Jew by the Gentile, irrespective of how liberal the Gentile may be. Concerning one answer, there is no discussion. Of course, we must do everything in order to enable every Jew who so desires to immigrate into the country and establish his life here. We have to save the Jews from Arab countries, to act with all our might to get the gates of East European countries opened. We must create in this country possibilities for the absorption of Jewish immigrants from Western countries. So far, this is all agreed. But does the State of Israel have duties towards Jews who can immigrate into the country and do not wish to do so? Furthermore, do we have the right to tell them, "We know better than you what is good for you"? and we shall therefore act to get you to immigrate into the country. We might even act in order to facilitate the deterioration of your situation in the diaspora, so that you will have no other choice but to immigrate into Israel. One should note that this last question is not imaginary. We have already had to face this question in very concrete situations, and we may have to face it again in the future. Uri Harari, Our Responsibility Towards the Jews in the Arab Countries, Yehudut Aharonot, 9th February 1969.